Welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. As they say, we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And at Erin Wellness, we believe that sustainable health and wellness is an accumulation of 5 pillars: the thoughts you think, the friends you keep, daily movement, nutrition, and lastly, supplementation. So each month we feature guests doing exceptional things that will hopefully inspire you to step into all you are destined to be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. I am excited today because I get to have Nadia Badowski on the show. Welcome, Nadia.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking time to be with me today. So I'm just going to read your incredible bio. You are an award-winning serial entrepreneur, and she is the founder of Koope Skincare. I've got some of it here, which is the first skinimalism brand focused on simple, super clean skincare. Nadia launched the brand during the height of COVID from her garden in the UK. We both have a love for the UK. And within the first year, Koope won multiple awards and national retail placement in both the US and Canada. So that's a very big deal. Following the acquisition of her company this year, she now consults for consumer brands with a particular passion for innovation and strategy. But Nadia's journey to success was not always a linear path. As a child trafficking survivor, she faced a difficult upbringing, enduring bullying in school, numerous rehoming, and a period in foster care. Despite all odds being stacked against her, Nadia defied every challenge to build a remarkable life and career, obviously with a wonderful brand too, proving that resilience and determination can overcome even the most difficult circumstances. Today, she's a passionate advocate and a humanitarian dedicated to fighting against trafficking and exploitation, and she has spent years volunteering and servicing on boards for various charities and foundations committed to these causes. Thank you so much for being with me today. I totally appreciate this. I know
Thank
you're busy.
you.
I know you're busy. So let's just kind of get right into it. Let's first start with the Koope brand. So first I want to say to anybody who is watching this, who can see this, you're probably recognizing her from this beautiful magazine cover at your local. And if you can't see it, it's The Woman's Voice. It's a magazine you can get. I believe it's a free magazine in health food stores. And her beautiful, beautiful headshot is on there. So, and her story and everything, a lot of good information in this magazine. So you can pick that up. So tell me about your journey and how did you get today with Koope and your brand?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's so great. I just love chatting with you. So this is so much fun.
It is fun.
But yeah, Coop, uh, I think that similar to a lot of people, COVID happened. COVID for us in the UK was awesome. I'm sorry, like for me, it was just like it was the best summer. We had the best weather. Everybody was just in their gardens. And, I was thinking about what I enjoyed doing, what was important to me, and the impact that I wanted to make on the world. And, it really stemmed from my own skin struggles. I have extremely sensitive skin. Um, I had a really horrible reaction to a luxury skincare brand. I had chronic hives actually all over my face and neck for over a year. And I'll give you a picture if you can put it up here.
Yeah.
But it was really intense. I mean, I had huge welts. Like they weren't just small kind of little pimples and dry patches. They were actually like huge welts that would peel and um, they were really red and inflamed. I couldn't put absolutely anything on my face. And went to a number of dermatologists and doctors and people, one person told me that I had a lactose intolerance and that was what was causing it, which I don't.
Yeah.
Um, but even still, I tried everything. I tried all of the naturopathic medicines and everything like that. And it wasn't until I met one dermatologist who said, bring in everything that you use on your face. So I brought this like huge, massive bag of everything that I used on my face and on my hair. And she said, okay, first of all, you're using way too much stuff. So, your skin can only take so much. She said, you have to pare it back. And then she started to pick up, random individual products and she would point out ingredients that were really harmful. And I was really surprised at the ones that she was picking up saying, don't use this, don't use this, don't use this, because they were the expensive luxury, price tag products. Um, so, I was pretty taken back by that because I'm also a qualified esthetician. I became qualified almost 20 years ago. And I felt that I was educated on ingredients and the topics, and I was surprised that I didn't know these things. And I realized that not a lot of people know these things about skincare products and what goes into our products. So, that was, I think, probably the initial prompt that started my interest in it. And, for my own skin health, I started to research ingredients and I started to learn about ingredients and what's good, what's bad, and what to do, and also to pare back, and how important it is not to overload your skin, and how sensitive the skin is to hormones, stress, etc. And you can be using something for 10 years. I had said to her, so I've been using that for years and years. But she said, are you stressed? Yeah, I'm going through divorce. So,
A little bit.
you're right, a little bit stressed, and your immune system drops, and then all of a sudden you can't produce the histamines to fight, or sorry, you can't produce, your body won't fight against allergens and so on. So that was probably the first thing that prompted it. And then the second thing is, during COVID, so fast forward a couple years later, I eventually pared back my routine and everything, and then the hives went away. So it wasn't lactose or
Yeah.
whatever, was being told that the trend at that time. But um, then COVID happened and I was looking, I was getting a little bit older, which I say that funnily because I'm turning 40 this month. And now, like that period, that age seems so young to
I
me.
know, right?
Like, that's ridiculous. I
I
would
know,
die to go back there.
I
But
know, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I started to, I wanted more. I had pared back my routine so much to fight against the hives that my skin wasn't getting what it needed. And I went to go find something new. And it was just, I was so overwhelmed. Like the industry has just become so overly complicated for no reason. It was confusing. I really struggled to find something, and I thought, like, how can anybody choose, right? How can anybody make a decision in this complicated purchase journey? So I that was the other thing that prompted me, is that I realized that somebody had to create a product that was giving you what you needed, that was healthy, that didn't include the things that you don't need and that aren't good for your skin, and just make it really simple and stop trying to sell me something that, you're just putting marketing fluff on it for no reason, but actually isn't helping me. And that's really where it was born.
Oh, that's amazing. And so, where did the name come from? That's another question.
Oh God. So Coop, um, the brand itself, there were a number of pillars, and one of the first brand pillars obviously was healthy skin, scientifically healthy skin, but also I wanted people to interact with the brand and feel inspired and feel like they belong to a community. And, I had the art program, which I'll talk about in a
Yeah.
second. And so essentially, I wanted the name to be unique. I wanted it to have its own meaning. I wanted, when people said the name, that they thought of that they thought of, trustworthy consumer brand, something, that is easy and that works and that inspires them, and, et cetera, and does a difference. So I literally just made it up, but I mean, it's not that easy. I It took me about 2 months, and I trademark searched over 1,000 names.
Imagine.
It was soul destroying. My now husband, we were dating at the time. I remember, like, I'd be like, oh, what about this name? And I checked one country and it was checked. And then I checked the US and it was like, nope, taken. So back to the drawing board. And I did that like over 1,000
Yeah.
times. Yeah. So
Did you launch in the States first or Canada first? Was it the US
I
first?
actually launched in the UK first,
Oh, the
and
UK
then
first. Okay.
and then the US, because I was still in the UK. So
Yeah.
we just moved to the US 3 years ago.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
And yeah, so it was the UK first.
So it's in the UK now, and also, wow, good for you. That's incredible. And another question, did you actually sit in your kitchen and like mix stuff up, or do you have like, you went to, somebody who you work with as well, who helped you come up with how to make this amazing product?
No, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know how to do it either. So it was
Okay.
like, when I say, like, I came up with the concept in my garden in the
Yeah.
UK during COVID, that's what happened. Like, I had these ideas, and I knew what I wanted in it. I knew what I didn't want in it. I knew what I wanted them to do. And I had to find a partner that would work for me. And, that was probably one of the hardest challenges when I actually started the brand, was finding a manufacturing partner who wanted to work with me, because nobody wants to work with a startup, because
Yeah.
we have low MOQs, we don't have any money, we don't have a market, they're going to put in a lot of time and energy and not get anything back for a very long time. And, finding somebody who shared my vision and my passion
Yeah.
was I would say the biggest battle of even starting the brand. Like, I had to sell the brand and the product and the concept far before I had to sell it to consumers. I was selling it from day one to people, can you make this for me, et cetera. And I finally found a lab in the UK who, who was willing to make the products, also excluding the ingredients. I had a really strict exclusion list. There were ingredients that I had on my no-no list that are so common because they're cheap and they're fillers and they're inexpensive preservatives, etc. And all the labs, oh well, we have to put that in. It's really common. It's not a big deal. And I really stuck to my guns. It was just a non-negotiable. And I had to find a lab that says, you know what, we want the challenge. We'll take this on. We like what you're doing. We believe in it. We are aligned with your journey and your purpose, etc. And that took a long time. That was really tough. Yeah.
Like I can definitely speak to that too, being a smaller brand myself. And even just starting out when you're doing, my first was 2 products. I mean, I am not doing hundreds of thousands of bottles when I'm doing 2 products, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
is. And even when you manufacture those first 2 products, you're like, oh my gosh, I hope I can sell this. Because if I
Yeah.
can't sell it, we're gonna have sleep support products and stress support. Everybody's getting it for
Filling
Christmas.
your garage.
Like this is what your Christmas is gonna look like for the next year, people. This is it. So
Yeah, everyone's getting Erin Wellness.
everybody, that's
for
it
Christmas
all
for
the time, forever, right? So it really is this like, oh crap, okay, can I do this? And so it's fun to get when you kind of, because I love creating, I believe you're the same too.
Yeah,
And then you kind of have this like, oh my God, I hope people buy this.
absolutely. Yeah.
You
And I
know?
mean, also manufacturers will try to sell you something too,
Yeah.
right? Like you'll approach them with an idea. We put everything in tubes because it's more hygienic and
Yeah.
they have a longer shelf life, because we don't pack a bunch of crap in it and everything. And they'll say, oh, why don't you put in a pot? We can do less if you put in a pot, and they'll try and sell you a pot. And it's, well, I don't want it in a pot. I want it in a tube. Okay, well, then you have to do 10,000 or
Well,
whatever. And
it's nice too because it stands up. Like we have this in our bathroom, my daughter and I, and so they stand up nicely. And so it kind of, so you're not having all these jars all over the place. But no, then it's such a nice, clean packaging. If you look at I have a lot of stuff on my packaging due to labeling compliance, but still, I love the white and the black and the more simplistic. So it's kind of the way I love my packaging as well. And you're also PETA approved too. PETA approved. PETA.
yeah, we're vegan and cruelty free. We're also gluten free. We're halal friendly. It's really
Is
versatile
that a big
product
thing to
for
go through
everybody.
to get PETA approved? Is that quite a hurdle?
So you have to adhere to certain standards. So in Europe, it's easier in Europe because you can't test on animals, right?
Oh,
It's
okay. Well, that makes it,
a
yeah,
legal standard, yeah,
which should be.
which should be everywhere,
It should
right?
be everywhere,
Right.
right?
Which and there's so many things about it. Like even in Europe, they ban now. It's gone up to 1,600. It was 1,400 when I first started, but it's gone up to 1,600 ingredients that are banned in Europe, and only 13. Like I don't mean 1,300. I mean 13 in the U.S. And I think Canada's up to about 500 now. It was 300 before. Don't quote me on that, but it's in the hundreds in Canada. But this is it. It's like, well, Europe has these really high standards. Europe is some of the highest standards in the world. Why aren't the other countries following suit?
And you also look at how much more, I mean, we were just in Italy this past summer, how healthier everybody seems to be. The obesity rate's not as high over there, like the food, everything. Right? When we look at
Everything. Yeah.
everything, the whole lifestyle there is far more in line with living a healthy lifestyle, right? Compared
Yes. Yeah.
to fast food and anything that's quick, right? This kind of
Yeah.
throw.
Yeah.
So when did you know you were onto something? So you're in the UK, you've got this brand. When you're like, hold on a second here, I think this could be a go. When was it kind of your moment for that?
I mean, it was a go when I was talking about like I'm a creator like you, right? So I have a lot of ideas a lot, all the time. And I tell my friends and stuff, and my friends are really honest and my friends are really smart people. And sometimes I tell them, I say, yeah, it's okay, but when I started to talk about Coop, it was just across the board. Everybody that I spoke with was like, yeah, I get that. Yes. And there was a lot of really positive feedback from my network and circle of friends and family. When I really knew that I was onto something is when we launched in our first year in the US. And we won 3 awards, as you mentioned, the health.com award, which was huge. And we had national placement, across in our first year. And buyers, we would go to shows and like trade shows and exhibit, and buyers just loved it. And it was the things that they loved as well. Like it wasn't just the products themselves. They loved the art program, they loved the charity program, they loved what we stood for, they loved the ingredient standards. And it was I think I knew that I was onto something, or rather it was validated when
Yeah,
it was so clear that the whole formula of the brand, including everything, that what we would really hit it.
really resonated.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about the art program, because this is a really cool thing. You're doing a lot of great things with this brand, obviously, but I'd love if anybody can see that. If you can't see it, you have to go buy a box and see it. So tell
Yeah,
me about
buy box soon because that one's gonna, we rotate our art.
yeah.
So that's not gonna be there forever. But yeah, the art program I had mentioned earlier, I was so tired of going into stores and it's just like sell like be a better person, be prettier, be healthier, be fitter, skinnier, and I think that everybody is just so tired of that. And I wanted people to interact with the brands, and instead of being told how they can be better, I wanted them to feel like they were part of something and inspired and feel, a light energy when they pick up a product and say, "Wow, that's really cool. That's art. That's our our lifeblood, like, expression and creativity, etc." So the art program, I put out an art call twice a year, and anybody can submit a piece of art, and then the winner is commissioned and printed on our packaging.
It's so cool. I love that. And so every single, is it this the same on every box or no? Because I'm trying to think of the other
Yeah,
box.
the colors change. Yeah, the colors change, but that will be on the range for this.
Very
Yeah,
cool. And so when's the next one launching?
I'm actually launching an art call. I'm in the process of setting it up
Are you?
now. Yeah.
What like their boxes? Now it's not like it's like artwork. People like start keeping them and like, do little
Well, you say that as a joke. I'm like, I joke around like that, but like I keep them, you
Yeah.
know. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if they were like a collectible item, people
Ah,
keep their cartons and it's
yeah.
something special.
Something special. Or you could put it into like a frame if you had all of them, right? You
Yeah.
could do that
I
too.
have them framed.
Do you?
I'm
Love
such a
that.
geek.
I love
I have them framed. All the art that we've had, I have them framed.
that. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit. What was your biggest obstacle that you found launching a CBG brand? Did you like what was one of the biggest things you found really?
Yeah, so I mentioned like in the earlier days, it was definitely finding manufacturing partners that would work for me or work with us. Um, I mean, I got a lot of no's before I got a lab on board. I would say that later on, once the brand launched, I think I grossly underestimated how present I had to be as a founder. I'm a very private and introverted person. Um, and, I'm kind of more of like the mad scientist before behind the curtain. That was, my what I was used to in my role. Um, and I think I really underestimated and didn't one thing that I didn't plan for is how much consumers, myself included, which is a little bit ironic that I didn't see this because it was such a big reason of why I started the brand, but how much consumers want to see who they're buying from. I think, consumers are just so sick and tired of faceless corporations selling them products and wanting to be a part of our lives, and we didn't know nothing about them. They're just, anonymous. Um, so I think that was a big challenge for me. It was just very unnatural at first for me to speak and do public speaking and be so present and be the face of the brand. So that for me personally was a big challenge. Um, Launching a consumer brand, I would say that was probably the biggest one. In terms of the products themselves, I was really pushing against the norm. I was basically highlighting and saying, a lot of what's on the shelf right now is not okay.
Yeah.
And, that's really difficult when you're one person,
Yeah. Going
trying to
against
push.
the mammoth that is,
Right.
the
An
industry.
industry, right, exactly. And I'm basically saying, similar to the food industry right now, everybody is, highlighting how, in the US, I'm not sure what it's been a long time since I lived in Canada, but particularly in the US, everyone's talking about food standards and everyone's starting to see, like, look at the cereal
Yeah.
in Europe, look at the cereal here, etc. And, I think now people are becoming a lot more aware of ingredient standards and things in skincare, but, we were the first skinimalism brand that said, hey, you don't need to put all these things on your face. You can use two products and actually it's better for you. And, you really shouldn't be using these ingredients in your products. And, so that's a real challenge, is educating people. And now there's so many apps and stuff that are, some of them are good. A lot of them are just really misinformation. Like I use one app, just to kind of scan our products and see. And you scan a product that is full of essential oils and things that are really common irritants. Like essential oils that are applied directly on the face or not undiluted can actually burn your skin, but because they're natural and they have no preservatives, they're marked as green or safe or whatever, the thing is. And so having to educate constantly that, okay, listen, that's not okay. Like, you need preservatives. You can't have a product if you don't have preservatives that's sitting in your bathroom with moisture, etc. It's going to be full of mold, and then you're going to put that in your face. Try putting that on a child's face. They're going to get sick and etc. Like, there's all of this misinformation, and I'm sure you have that as well with with nutritional products. That is, I would say, the biggest challenge is trying to educate over all the noise, and get people's attention to try and help and educate correctly. I'd say that that's probably a huge obstacle.
That is a huge obstacle, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I find when, especially when I give my talks, that it's you don't have to do any kind of like minimalism, but you don't have to do any of these great, it's the basics we've all been talking about, right? It's
Yeah.
moving your body, drinking your water, like
Yeah.
it's, eating healthy, whole foods, inflammatory, all those
Yeah.
things, basics. But I think people think they need to do all these crazy things in order to get the results or to feel better. And you really don't. You have to stick to the
Yeah.
basics first, and then you can look at what's going on in your body, and kind of the same thing, stick to the basics as you've done here with the nice, clean, simple products that you can, exactly what you're putting on your face, which is
Yeah.
another thing. So I want to talk about your passion for fighting against trafficking and exploitation. I know that's a big passion of yours. I know that you guys have $1 for every product, if that's correct, goes towards this cause of yours. And I know it's kind of migrated now to a different association here in Canada, at least. But I'd love you to share about this and to kind of, if you are okay with it, and talk about how this became part of your brand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it became part of the brand because it's such a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And, like I'm so stumped now by the I don't even know where to start on that question. Um, when I the brand is a I think all consumer brands should be a vehicle for doing something. I actually find it inexcusable to have such a presence in people's lives and a connection with people as a brand that's in their homes and their lives and their routines, etc., and not do something, you know, uh, to help the world,
You're back.
whether it's trafficking,
100%.
environment. Yeah, I will use the strong phrase and say it's inexcusable.
Mhm.
And I think it's also inexcusable to kind of mask that with like very small impacts that are just there to tick a box. I almost think that that's worse,
Yeah.
to give the impression to your customers and your consumers that you're actually doing something, and really you're just doing something to tick a box. So, um, I had a lot of people telling me, startup is hard, margins are hard, maybe you should wait, etc. And I really, I could not do it unless I was contributing to the cause, because it was just so important. It was such an important part of my life. Um, so I really stood my ground, and I did the donation from day one. And, I built the brand around that. And a big thing was raising awareness of the cause and how common it is. I mean, the numbers are wrong. Like, the numbers that you see out there, the statistics of how much it happens globally are just wrong. They're so wrong. It's so underreported. I think partially because so many children and adults don't even know what's happening, let alone what they can do about it or where to get help. I think that now people are starting to become much more aware of the problem and the epidemic. Um, but trafficking takes a lot of faces. It looks different in different parts of the world. Um, but helping survivors, there's just so much impact that sort of experience and trauma has on somebody in their later life. Um,
And it takes a
I
lot of
think
work to go through too. I mean, sorry, Trump, but I
no,
mean,
that's
I was on the street as a teenager, right? And I found myself in many peculiar situations. And that is, I mean, I don't know if you call it the grace of God or what you want to call it, but I definitely shouldn't be here today. Like there is no
yeah.
if. So I put myself into some severely dangerous situations.
Mhm.
And I came from a good family. Like I had, all the good stuff, right, that you're supposed to have. And so people were really shocked by the route that I ended up taking. I don't go too into details for my own story, just because I do have a 16-year-old. Eventually, I will be able to kind of like, okay, after I talk to her about what my story really comes from. But what that did for me was and that kind of the same as you, since day one, I've donated to the Downtown East Side Women's Shelter. And we did it off our net profits because I knew that if I didn't have these grassroots organizations that were down in the streets and talking to women and supporting women, I wouldn't be here today. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. And so in that, I remember even my accountant, because originally I was doing it off of gross profits. My accountant's like, that's a lot. You may
Yeah.
get that net
You
profits.
might
I'm
be in
like, no,
trouble.
I think we should do this. He's like, no, trust me. It needs to be off net profits. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we do that, right? And in that, even just going down and being able to volunteer, I want Michaela to go down and volunteer during the COVID thing. We were starting to go down, and of course, COVID happened. But I think when I was on Dragon's Den, one of the things Arlene and I had a conversation afterwards because she's the dragon I chose. And she asked me what's one thing I never got to talk about. And I said, I never got to talk about the Downtown East Side Women's Shelter and what the work that they're doing. And she said, if she believes that's the perfect business, she goes, if you have a business that you're able to help consumers and support them in a need, you're able to support your retailers, right? Your retailer friends and help them have a business and pay for their families. And then also, manage to support yourself and also give back at the same time. She goes, that's like the perfect business model, right?
Mhm,
Because that energy of giving and it flows a lot easier. And I
mhm.
think it's something I've done from day one and I'll continue to do as well. So I really, really respect what you're doing there and just bringing to light the importance of businesses being socially responsible and
Yeah.
contributing in some way, shape, or form. Right.
Yeah. And
Hands down.
well, likewise to you as well. And, and it's funny because it also goes back to starting a business, right? And being an entrepreneur. Like, I mean, I think for me, starting Coop, if I didn't have that cause, I wouldn't have been as passionate. And I think people feel it, right? Like you could feel it when a founder is passionate and authentic, etc. Um, but yeah, it was very important to me to use the brand to really highlight the problem because, to your point, um, my early life and my story was was like and this is sorry, I'm going back and forth now, but like this is part of the thing is that you made a really good point is that trafficking and homelessness and drug addiction and or any kind of addiction or anything, it's sexual abuse, anything, it doesn't just happen to people who grow up in very like less fortunate kind of situations, right? I'd say I was probably somewhere in the middle, but my parents, neither of my parents were addicts or anything, the point that I'm trying to make is that, all it trafficking in particular, the way that people are groomed or, children, particularly children are groomed or, vulnerable adults, and vulnerable adults means all kinds of things, right? Like, and this is it, like a vulnerable adult could be somebody with any kind of mental health issue. And we know obviously in our society, like we are just rife with mental health issues now. Um, and being able to identify it and teach parents and teach children and teach adults and stuff of the warning signs of what happens because it's particularly in North America. So I'll talk about North American specific because it's the way that it happens here. A lot of it is grooming, pimping, things like that, a boyfriend, there's a lot of Stockholm syndrome and well, that's actually across the board no matter where you are, but um you don't almost realize that it's particularly if you're a child, right? Like you don't realize it's happening. You don't even know that something's wrong because there's an impression that this person is helping you or that this person cares for you. And they model it like that or they design it. That's how it's designed. So anyways, it's without going into a lot of detail about that, um, raising awareness about this issue, which is huge. And we've seen that now with like Epstein and now what rapper,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Diddy.
right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rapper.
Rapper guy.
Like we've seen it now. We're seeing it more, but still not enough,
Yeah.
right? And
And just how
bringing
people are quiet, how people are quiet about it, right? And people
very
are,
quiet. There,
right? And
yeah,
even my talking completely open about my experience.
mhm,
Part of me is because I have a daughter who's 16, right? And so
mhm,
part of me wants to protect her until she's at an age where I can have a conversation with her and really divulge into what my experience was.
yes.
And, so then she can be like, okay. And then she's like equipped a little
She
bit
can
more,
process it.
she
Yeah.
can process it. And then also too, the same time, some of the stuff I went through was highly, highly, highly traumatic. And I think about just her having to deal with people who
Yeah.
were younger, who aren't equipped to deal with it and asking her questions.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I've always tried to be very quiet about what
Yeah.
I went through, but I've been open with my close friends who are all like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And and so in that a part of me that's saying in the motivation to kind of keep going, I always think about that. I'm like, there is a reason I am here. There is a
Mhm.
reason I
Yes.
survived. And I know that. And I know part of my reason I survived is because one day I'm going to share my story. And
Mhm.
one day there's going to be somebody who's going to listen and go, wow, I can actually have a life that I've always dreamed of, even if I've had choices or things, situations that I went through. Right. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to get emotional, but that's something that drives me continuously, as I know eventually that's what's going to end up happening. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this long vision of, I love the brand, but it's like there's a purpose in this. I know there's a purpose in all of this. So,
Yes. Yeah. And it is, I'm sorry, I know
oh
I'm
no.
giving you a hug, but and I think that like the stigma as well. And like I mean, I took PR coaching, right? When I started to talk about it, I didn't talk about it at all. And I knew that I would have to talk about it and controlling that narrative. And, when people say what happened, well, I don't really want to talk about the details of what
Yeah.
happened, but I can talk about what the issue is
Yeah.
and what we can do about it. And I think that, keeping the focus on how do we go forward, but that there is a stigma, right? Like there's a stigma that people who survive that kind of abuse and trauma, like homelessness included and stuff, and some of the things that we live through is, I mean, like you said, like you tell, my husband now, he's so good about like I tell him something and he's like, okay, he's so, yeah, I'm like, doesn't that like surprise you? He's like, you know but there's this stigma, I think, when when you're in it, and you think, well, this is it now, this is my identity, this is my life, this is as far as I'm going to go. And when you come out of it saying, well, no, I can't do that, that's not made for me. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't finish high school. When I got my first degree in college, I was a mature student. When I got my MBA, I was a mature student. I still don't have a high school diploma, but I have an MBA, and like just kind of showing people
There's different routes to get to where you
there's
want to be.
different routes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's this
100%.
side and then there's another
Yeah.
side, but the end is still the same.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's so important to eliminate that stigma. I'm very happily married to a wonderful man, and I have this beautiful family and this beautiful life, and I have beautiful friends and colleagues and stuff like that. And, 20 years ago, like, there's no way I would have thought
Yeah.
that I like looking up now and looking at my life and what I can achieve and stuff. I think that really breaking the stigma for people who are either experiencing it or they've, just managed to take that hugely brave step, and say, hey, you know what? Like, it's good. You could still,
Yeah.
like
You
you
can
could
still
still
cry.
do it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that for you and me, that's our purpose. And it's a responsibility and so important.
I 100% agree with you. Love that. Love that. First time I've ever gotten emotional on here.
I'm
So
sorry.
no, no, it's good. It's good. Because it is something that is, I think about it quite often, in the morning times, or sometimes you have these, got the award 2 weeks ago at CHFA, and you're just kind of like, holy
Oh, I
shit.
know. Congratulations. That's
But
amazing. I saw that.
stuff like that, when you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, 18-year-old Erin, if you were to see
Right.
if you were to see this girl, you'd be like, it's going to be okay. Right. This whole kind of, so it's really, really, I reflect on it so often, right? How gracious, how lucky I am to be where I am today, and had people who supported me and loved me along the way and championed me. And that I also kind of same as yourself, right? Kind of went, no, I'm going to do something different. There's something different for me in this life, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's that or die
yeah,
for
it's that or die, right?
it literally,
Yeah,
you get to a point where it's like, if something doesn't happen, I'm going to die. So, and making the choice not to die is super brave. But, I know that and it's important to thank the people who, held us and stuff and supported us. But I think that it's really important to say, hey, Erin, I'm
yeah,
flipping awesome, like I'm strong,
yeah.
and really harness that and love that and appreciate that about you as well. That's
Look
equally as
like
important.
that. Was it with Snoop Dogg when he's like, I'd like to thank me?
Oh, I know. So
To
I
thank
like to
me
thank
for all
myself.
the, because I'm the one who freaking did all this. And I'm like, yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of being
Yeah.
like, I want to thank somebody, it's like, oh, it's all me. And you can just all clap
Yeah.
because
I
it's
put in the work. Yeah.
in the work. I'm the one who thought of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So great. Okay, so I wanted to ask, so somebody's starting out in the entrepreneurial journey. We're going to have people who are listening to this who are, have an idea and they're like, what should I do? What's a piece of advice you could give them if they're starting out right now?
Just like one.
Go ahead. I
Um,
don't have to be anywhere.
I think the first person or the first thing that I would probably tell a new entrepreneur is, if you're not passionate about it, just don't do it, because it is so hard and labor intensive. And, even if you have the best boundaries in place and you have your work-life balance and all that stuff, you're always thinking about it. You never shut off, right? So if you're not passionate about it, you're going to burn out like overnight. You'll start to hate it, because it is just so it's like a kid, right? Like, you absolutely adore your kid. If you had a friend that was as demanding as your kid, you'd be like, I hate you, like you're not my friend anymore, I don't want anything to do with you. So it's kind of the same thing. And so if you're not passionate about it and you don't absolutely love it and really believe in it, just don't do it, because it will kill you. And I will tell you, your customers will feel it. They will also be able to see that you're not passionate about it. um I think the other thing that I would suggest a new entrepreneur is make sure that you map out what your growth looks like as well. And um, what does building your business look like? Like, are you growing something that you want to, have all your friends and family work for? So what does that look like, right? Do you have to, like, when you scale, do you have to build a team? What does your team look like? What does your success look like? Is it, building something where you're taking, meetings on the beach and it's kind of running itself, or do you want to sell it or whatever? But I think that just even having those conversations with yourself or your business partner, if you have one, and kind of mapping out what that looks like from day one. And things change, like, everything changes. And, and that's another piece of it. Like, don't think that you're going to stick to a business plan and it's going to stay the same, because it's just not. But, really having at least some kind of direction, you have to have that. Or again, I think you'll go crazy. You'll just absolutely go crazy. Yeah.
That's a great one. I love that. So aside from doing all the wonderful things that you've done, how do you find time for balance? Do you believe that word exists? What is your kind of take on balance, or how do you manage things to kind of have a little bit of both business and pleasure?
Um, so to caveat my answer first, I will say, kind of going back, like, your business should be enjoyable and your passion and stuff. And no matter how much balance you have, you're always gonna, you're always gonna wake up in the middle of the night and have ideas and stuff like that. But so in the literal response to your question, balance absolutely has to exist for founders, because you need that creative space. Without that creative space, you're just an operator. And when you're starting a business, you're not just operating, you're building and you're creating. And so you absolutely have to take that space for balance as a new entrepreneur. Scheduling is probably the most underrated tool that a founders can have. Without a schedule, you're just absolutely all over the place. And, like, and all these things, it's not just about mental health. You will see it in your business. You will see how much better things go and run when you give yourself that
Yeah.
kind of time. And that, yeah, I am a huge believer. I don't care what kind of business you're starting. You have to have that time to keep yourself healthy, to keep your mind and your body healthy, and give yourself that creative space.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big scheduler of everything. I have my list, my
Yeah.
daily list, my weekly list, my monthly list. Things get moved over
Yeah.
every year, right?
Yeah.
every day it's something that I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing. I don't know how people don't have lists. I've met people who just kind of go and I'm like, how do you
They're
do
like anomalies. Yeah, I don't
that?
understand it either. I have to write everything down, you
Right. And
know.
I'm a writer. I can't use this, my phone. I have to write. I love writing and crossing off. That's a big
Yeah.
thing. I'm like, I've done it.
Well, because sorry to a lot. It's funny because my husband and I were just talking about that at dinner. Like tech is amazing and tech has opened up our world and stuff, but like your brain learns in different ways when you physically. I was watching something and it was like a magazine and they were like editing the magazine. It was probably from like 15, 20 years ago when you would like print it. And I don't work in publishing anymore, so I don't know how they do it now. But I would imagine that like when a magazine comes out, it's all digital computer. You go on and people mark the edits and stuff like that. And the show that I was watching, the movie, like they had the magazine and they had a pen and they were going over like the clear film making the changes. And like that type of learning and engagement is vital to our brain and our mental
Yeah.
health. And now with all this technology, that's like becoming obsolete, right? So writing down, I also write physical lists. And I have a notes thing on my phone and everything, but like even at night also, I shut my phone off at night, right? So I don't touch my phone. I have ideas all the time, but I have a pad and a
Yeah.
pen beside my bed
But
and I write it
yeah.
down. Yeah. So, it is really important, really important.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you. So what is one thing you would tell your 20-year-old self?
Oh, don't be scared. Don't be scared of the unknown
Yeah.
or failing, because the absolute best lessons come from failing. I think if you don't fail or you don't go through the all of the unknown, you don't really get the full lesson. So I think that's what I would say to her.
What is your favorite go-to treat?
So for all the English people there, I love Percy pigs. That's it's from M&S, like they're vegan candies, but I'm obsessed with Percy pigs. Here I'd say dark chocolate is my guilty pleasure. We have like every night.
Yeah. And what is your favorite swear word? You can say whatever you'd like. It's not
Do
PG.
I say it?
You can say it. Yeah.
I have to say, if I'm gonna swear, I'd say is probably my favorite swear word.
That's a big one. A lot of
If
people say
I'm gonna
mother.
Yeah, like if I'm gonna swear, I feel like the phonics and everything like it has the best. It's if I'm gonna swear, like it's got to count. Like I feel like shit's kind of wishy-washy. Like it has to count.
A good one. Fuck is a good one.
Yeah,
Even say when you swear, was it like it lowers cortisol? It's actually good for you to
it
swear.
is.
It's funny. I was thinking about like Michaela. I know she's 16 and she swears, but she'll swear in front of me. I'm like, hey, hey, hey. Like she's not allowed to swear in front of me. And even now with my mom, if I swear, she'll be like, Aaron. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
my mom
right.
too.
I
She
can't
like
swear around my mom. Don't be swearing around me. I'm like, oh, you're right. Right. But anybody else will swear around, but it's my mom and Michaela can't swear around me. And she'll still catch herself. It's so funny. Like passing this generational don't swear in front of your mom thing that we have going on. But
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on
Thank
today.
you so
This has been
much.
amazing. So you can buy Koope at your local health food stores. We know that because you can see it everywhere. Keep your eye out for it. The website is, what's the website?
Oh, in Canada, well, it's Coop.com, but
.com.
and
Okay.
there's a new Canadian site now that's been launched.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. And then where else can they find? So Instagram, you guys have where else?
Amazon, health food
Health food
stores.
stores.
Yeah,
So the Instagram is We Are Coop.
we are Coop. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so go out and get yourself some. It's amazing skin products. We love it in our household. Thank you so much for being with me today. This has been
Thank
just
you.
wonderful. And thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. Stay tuned next time for another Friends You Keep.
Sounds good.